Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This will be the second board from the appendix of dubious formations and how to attack them. This is one of the three books, one book in the trilogy of opening books that has been hailed as one of the greatest of all time. So without further ado, let us begin. Okay, so let us begin today's board. Central cannon, greenhouse defense, and since black played the 7th pawn, red would do so likewise. And in this board, black would choose to attack with the left riverbank horse variation, one of the most volatile variations that black can come up with. And red chose to counter with the left proper horse, and e3 plus 5 is a prophylactic move. So far, all these moves are considered to be tabia. And red chose to use the 5-9 cannons to attack. Now, at this point in time, black decided to advance his cannon across the river, hoping to add pressure and capture the pawn over here, and perhaps force red to attack with the central pawn. Unfortunately, this would be not a very good move because it would weaken black's formation greatly. Instead, the sound move recommended would be r1 plus 2. And red countered with r2 equals to 4. Now this is a very agile move, showing that red had read the situation very well. Would it be possible, or would it be a good idea to play r9 equals to 8 to develop the left chariot, as would be in the 5-9 cannons? Let us see. If r9 equals to 8 were played, red would choose to play c2 equals to 3 to add pressure on this flank. Now red would be forced to push the pawn forward. Black would advance his pawn forward to attack the chariot. And black would now have 3 pieces that have crossed the river, and it would be very hard for black to try to control the situation on the board now. Now c2 equals to 3 was played. Now it would be a bad idea for black to play c2 equals to 7 to attack the elephant, as it will simply move away. And let's say black continue with p7 plus 1. It will attack the horse, and red will simply play h7 plus 6 to move the horse to the riverbank. Now at this point in time, red would have the initiative, because although black would have amassed 4 major pieces and a pawn that crossed the river on this flank, there was nothing much that black could do. And black's forces were actually becoming more and more congested. So that is why c2 equals to 3 is advocated. But even so, black would have to play very carefully. So this is the reason why r9 equals to 8 is not advocated. And red read the situation very nicely and played r2 equals to 4. Now in the match, black continued with c2 equals to 7. Would it be a good idea for black to play h6 plus 7? Red would simply charge the horse forward, threatening to push the pawn and capture the black cannon. And again, although the black cannon had crossed the river, it was basically functionless at this point because it could not do much. So red would have a significant advantage. At this point in time, red retreated his horse to the centroid. Usually this is not advised for the player, but in this situation it would be a very good move, because by retreating the horse forward, red would now be prepared to develop this horse from this flank, from the left flank. e3 plus 1 to prevent the pawn from crossing the river and prevent capture by the elephant is not a good idea, because black would simply play c8 plus 2 to protect the horse, and red would not. The efficiency of this piece would be greatly diminished because it cannot threaten to pin black's cannon and chariot in the same file at this point in time. Now this is one of the major issues for red when attacking black's position in this manner. So red retreated his horse, and things were starting to become very interesting at this point. Black continued with c8 plus 2. It would appear that black would have fallen into a trap of his own device, because now this horse would have trouble developing, and because the cannon was protecting the horse, the efficiency of the development of this chariot will also become an issue. One might wonder, would it have been better for black to retreat his horse h6 minus 4 and perhaps to capture the pawn to attack? Let us see. Red would simply capture the central pawn, delivering a check, forcing a trade of material, and at this point in time, red would have fortified his defenses and also threatened to capture the black horse. As can be seen, the black horse will now be placed in a very embarrassing situation, because it cannot retreat, nor can it check. The pale corner horse check would not be possible because this intersection was guarded by the cannon. So how would black continue to develop his horse? This would be a major issue. So red would have the advantage if black played h6 minus 4. And because black's pieces are now crammed, the position or the formation that he had was not very ideal at this point. Now red will start his assault. The first move would be to play c5 equals to 2 to threaten the chariot, forcing the chariot out, and black would lose tempo in this manner. Red would take the opportunity to develop his left chariot, and as can be seen, at this point in time, both the red chariots have been developed while black had not developed any chariot yet. Now, red's advantage will become increasingly obvious. Black finally played r9 equals to 1 because there was no better way to develop, and there was also always the threat of r4 equals to 2. Another nice move by red, playing c2 equals to 4 to threaten to capture the advisor, and black can only protect this from prevent this from happening by moving one of the advisors. But in doing so, this chariot will be even more severely limited in its development. And red was relentless as he continued to attack with r8 plus 7. Now, as in the past few moves, red played r5 equals to 2, and then c5 equals to 2, and followed by c2 equals to 4. It would seem to be a loss of initiative, but in actual fact, black's formation would be even worse, and we would have amassed a significant advantage. Now he continued with c8 equals to 7, targeting another weakness on black's side. Now this would mark the start of a blistering attack. Black will be forced to protect the horse, and since the chariot had blocked the horse, red could now start his attack from the flank. Black tries to develop his chariot, hoping that he might be able to push the pawn forward later on. But in doing so, as mentioned earlier, red countered with r4 equals to 2. Now this is a very crucial move to deny black from playing r7 plus 2 to trade chariots and hopefully release some pressure. Now with this move, black will be forced to retreat his horse to protect the cannon. If the cannon moved here, red will play p1 plus 1. And since the horse moved, red will now continue to compress the space that black has with h7 plus 6 and develop both horses from this flank as mentioned earlier. p3 plus 1 to offer trade of material, h6 plus 7. Now, red deliberately sacrificed the pawn as he mounted more and more pressure on black's right flank. As can be seen, red's 3 major pieces were now breathing down on black's right flank. h3 minus 4 to offer a trade of material, and red would refuse to do so and threaten to capture the chariot, which is placed in a very awkward position. A very nice tactical combination. The horse is protected by the chariot, and still red will be attacking the black chariot, forcing black to switch formations and move the advisor again. And at this point in time, another good move by red, commanding the very important red file. Now black would be denied any opportunity to launch a counter-attack at this point. And black tried to break free of the blockade with 3 equals to 1, but red would have none of it and chose to link his cannons in this manner. So things were becoming worse. The trade of material. Black tries to find some compensation by pushing his pawn across the river, and also disallow the red horse from developing to this flank. And red will try to free himself of the bind at this point. By retreating the cannon, he will be prepared to capture the elephant to deliver a check and then capture the black chariot. So of course black would have none of it and chose to play k5 equals to 4. Now at this point in time, black took care of business by retreating his chariot, thus eliminating one of black's last threats in this game. Black continued to move his horse, sacrificing the pawn. And black attempts to defuse the situation with this move, offering a trade of chariots. The cannon is protecting the chariot over here. Now, would it be a good idea to simply capture the central pawn? The answer will be a resounding no, because the threat of r7 equals to 2 was ever present, and if the cannon moved to the edge file, red would play p1 plus 1 and red would gain material. So that is why black decided to hope that red would trade chariots. But of course, red would have none of it and chose to play aggressively by targeting the advisor. And it was at this point in time, red took his time, 5 major pieces breathing down his flank, and red would now be able to move either the elephant or the advisor to consolidate his defense. p7 plus 1, a6 plus 5, and as red's pieces were simply too overbearing on this flank, black decided to become a little bit aggressive and sacrifice the advisor if need be by playing by moving the elephant to the riverbank, hoping to threaten with a skewer. So black was now betting everything on this move. Alright, minus 1. Again, red showed much maneuverability by retreating the chariot, preventing the loss of the cannon, and also be prepared to target the central pawn. A very powerful move indeed. Black chose to consolidate his defense, and red kept pestering black. So at this point in time, red made another very beautiful move with his pin. Now, if let's say black tried to protect the cannon, for example, red would be much better off because now the cannon would still be attacking the chariot and red would have gained material. So black would either have to move the chariot away or sacrifice it. But in the process of doing so, red would have pilfered away or stolen away one of black's pieces. So that is why h6 minus 7 is not advocated. Because red was attacking the horse, black tried to gain some compensation by capturing the chariot. But red would have none of it and chose to simply capture black's horse with this move. And after capturing the horse, the red cannon was still targeting the chariot, and the horse was protecting the pawn, so black cannot play r1+6. So black moved his chariot, and red will save his chariot in the nick of time with e5+1. Again, black played aggressively, pushing the pawn forward. If red captured it, the chariot will be lost. Black makes a prophylactic move to strengthen his defense, and black decided to capture the central pawn. Now things were approaching a climax. Now red played very nicely by retreating his cannon, preparing to play c4 equals to 5 to attack the pawn. Now black would try to protect the cannon in this manner. This would be to prevent the black pawn from being captured. And at this point in time, another brilliant move by the chariot, whereby red will play r8 equals to 4 to threaten the pawn. a4 minus 5, and as can be seen, the battleground will now be on the riverbanks. Red will simply capture the pawn, and red would actually have a 1 pawn advantage at this point. So after trading material, we can see that red would have gained a major piece. Now there were 2 red pawns and 1 black pawn, and it will be red's favor because he would have the extra horse. So at this point in time, black tried to erase the pawn deficit, but red would have none of it and chose to continue to attack. Now black, for all his efforts, he tried to gain some. For all his efforts, he tried to get some form of compensation by at least removing the 2 red pawns. But the horse will now be galloped to victory. This is to prevent an elbow horse attack. But red continued very nicely with r5 equals to 9, threatening to deliver a check and cause much more harm. And after a series of moves, red would advance his chariot again. And at this point in time, red would have the material advantage with the extra horse. This pawn still has to cross the river, and under most circumstances, it would have a hard time trying to do so. So at this point in time, the game was decided, and the rest of the moves have been omitted. But we can see very clearly that red will now be prepared to. Red victory will not be far away because red could play h6+4, etc., to attack. So a quick recap: central cannon, riverbank. Black chose to play the riverbank horse variation, and red countered with the proper horse. And this was the move that was problematic, as can be seen from the moves later on, because although black would have tried to power pressure over here, he did not have the extra means to carry out his plans completely. And red started to make a series of very nice moves, starting with r2 equals to 4, and then retreating this horse in this manner so that the pieces could be developed from this left flank. And black would be forced to play c8+2, but in doing so, the chariot will now be vulnerable, which was precisely what red did with c5 equals to 2, and red would be now much faster in terms of development of the pieces. Okay, I should recap. A nice move, forcing the advisor to be raised, and Brett continued his attack mercilessly, targeting the horse and also blocking the horse from preventing the spawn. So our n equals to 3. Again, another nice move with r4 equals to 2 to threaten the gain material, forcing the horse back. And at this point in time, because the horse was forced back, this chariot will now be in a very closed position, charging the horse across the river and applying even more pressure. Another nice tactical combination. And red insists on commanding the important lines. So black tries to free the chariot, but red would have none of it. A trail of material. c9 minus 1 to threaten with a discovered check to capture the black chariot. So that was why black moved the king. And red will now retreat his chariot to eliminate his biggest weakness on the board. And at this point in time, black tried to defuse the situation by retreating his advisor and offering a trade of material. So red refused, targeting the advisor. And as can be seen, red's forces were now being concentrated on this flank. A skewer. And black tried to play aggressive and counter-threaten the red's chariot. But red would have none of it and captured the horse anyways, while this cannon would be targeting the chariot. So things will spiral very quickly from here on. And after preparing the trade material, as can be seen, the red would have one extra piece and the game was basically decided. Black tried to mount a counter attack, but red would have none of it. And after a few more rounds of eliminating the pawns, we can see that red would have gained a significant advantage and was poised to win. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's video tutorial. I like this book series a lot and I hope you can learn something or be inspired by the commentaries over here. And if you like the work that I've been doing, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. Thank you and have a nice week ahead.